Hi, and welcome to the Prosperous Musician. My name is Spence, and I'm here with a very special guest. It is Louise Porter, and she is a music manager. She's in A&R, and very interestingly, she discovered Alesha Dixons and created the girl band Mis-Teeq. So we're going to find out what is the mystique behind that story. Welcome, Louise.
Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me, Spence.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to see you. We'll just rewind all the way back to the beginning. And so just tell me who you are and how you got into the music industry.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Cardiff, from a very musical family, really encouraged to sing, weekly piano lessons, all that kind of thing from a very young age. Just love creating music, writing songs, and performing live. So I was in a band in Cardiff. It was kind of cool, punky type of in the late 70s.
And you've still got the haircut. You've still got the hair.
I have got late 70s
punk hair.
The punk hair, the pink punk hair. And I've always been more on the commercial side, more of a pop person, and I love R&B. So the group, we did quite well in Cardiff on the local live scene, and the group kind of split up. I was in a group with my best friend from school. I just asked her to come along to an audition, and we were two girl backing singers, and the group split up. I moved to London with some members of the group, and the others stayed in Cardiff. I was the lead singer of my new group. And my friend was the lead singer of the group in Cardiff. They did a Cardiff compilation album and did really well. They got a deal with Rough Trade.
What were the names?
They were called Young Marble Giants. They became huge, even in America. Yeah. And so we did two different things. So my friend from school, who I asked to come to an audition with me, ended up being a big star. It was incredible, wonderful. And I moved up to London, and we started experimenting in the late 70s, early 80s, synths really start to develop. So I started experimenting with synthesizers and what have you. So I moved to London, and we kind of created a live band here. And we had a trio, and we got a deal with EMI Music Publishing, which was pretty cool. And I was able to work with Stuart Levine, who is Simply Red's producer.
And what was the trio's name?
The trio, we were called, well, I think back in the day, I think we were called Ladytron, which was a Roxy Music song. Yeah. And there was a Ladytron years later when I signed my group Mystique to Telstar. They also had a group called Ladytron, but it was different to ours. And had a wonderful career, very exciting time in the music business as technology advanced, and we were moving from, in the studio, more, moving from live drums, live bass to drum machines and synths. That was really great fun experimenting with that. When I listen to my demos now, I think, goodness me, they sound so raw, but at the time, really cool. And I had a, wonderful experience. Also got signed to Virgin. I used to, as a singer, songwriter, I used to do a lot of featured vocals on dance records, which I really enjoyed, but I never really liked the attention. So in the 90s, when the girl group explosion happened, and the Spice Girls actually came to see me when they were looking for management, they went with Simon Fuller in the end. And I started creating my own girl group for my own production company called Entice. And they were really ahead of their time. They were like a UK TLC and did very, very well. I got a publishing deal with Reverb Music, and I was able to I was working with two very, very talented producers, David Brandt and Michael Shershin, who David actually co-wrote Mystique's first two breakthrough hit singles. And Dave and I had a studio together in Waterloo. We started to develop our artists there. And we got them a deal with Telstar. And they did quite well. They had 4 top 20 hits and an album. After that kind of fizzled out, I started Mystique. So that was around about 1997.
So what's the timeline then from you being in your first group, and then you got that kind of little deal, and then your friend got into, got the breaking the other. So what was the timeline from there to just before Mystique?
Well, 20 years, I guess. I left London Cardiff in 1997, in 1979, and got my deals 1980, 81 with EMI. All through the 80s, I made records, I did live shows, etc. Wrote songs, learnt my craft.
What was the kind of scene like then? Because there's a bit of a link here, because we spoke to Jansky recently, and Jansky's you're kind of working with Jansky.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking now, and he was talking his story, kind of similar in your ways. You're talking about it. It all sounds very easy. He sort of decided he was going to go. Him and his friend Lars went to Stockholm and just said, here we are, and they got signed, and it was all like, just sounding like a very easy kind of progress. Was that the case for you, or was it a lot of bank doors and pushing?
It kind of was. I had amazing managers. I had Grant Black, who was the son of Don Black, who James Bond, famous composer, lots of musicals. So I was very lucky to have him as a manager. And I've always been very, very lucky working with the best people in the business. I'm trying to remember how EMI discovered us, because obviously it's a long time ago. We recorded a song called Listen to Love, I remember that. And it was very kind of electronic, lot of synths, kind of riffs going on, a bit like kind of early Depeche Mode. And we got signed to EMI Music. Somebody had heard about us, and we got offered a publishing deal with EMI Music initially. In those days, we were allowed to go and write songs in KPM studios in London. Quite often, nearly every week, I think, go and write songs there. Eventually, they were impressed with us. And in actual fact, the producer that we were working with, coincidentally, Glenn, ended up producing 2 of my best friends from school in Cardiff, 2 guys called The Waterfront, and they had a #1 in America. So all my close friends have all done so well. So that was amazing. And we then, obviously we were already within EMI. So, you sign a publishing agreement, and in return, obviously you've got to deliver songs. So we kind of were able to do that full time for a while. Wonderful. And as I say, we also got the free studio time and the access to the EMI engineer, who was, as I said, he went on to become a really, really successful producer. We were all the same age. So it was just in the right place at the right time. The only thing that happened then, we had a few changes with our lineup. And we had to change our name. You have to be very careful nowadays, and even then, that you find an original name. So halfway through releasing our first single on EMI, we had to change the name. And that kind of scuppered it all for us, really, because we'd already done the single cover, a lot of press, and then we suddenly had to change the name. It was not good. And it was because there was another kind of a rock group in Brighton that had the same name. So
you changed it from what name to which name?
Well, we were called The Dance Set. We were kind of in the 80s, 50s kind of styling, clothes and hair were in fashion. And then we changed it to Heyday. So that didn't really work. And I co-wrote the first single. And I'd actually done most of the backing track, the production. And this song, was picked up by a Grammy award-winning producer in America who more or less copied what I created. Not copied, reproduced. And that gave me such a boost because I thought, wow, this Grammy Award producer has reproduced my bass line, my beats, the tempo. And we did the same song in the UK, but I didn't like the production because they made it very up-tempo and all happy and jolly. And it was quite a, deep lyric.
And this was in the 80s still? In the
80s, yeah. So I being a bit of a diva, decided, no, I don't like this, I'm off, I'm leaving this record label, which was very stupid of me. But it was okay because I, got a solo deal, did lots of other things. But as I say, I also, in the 80s, I was also very lucky to do the Boomtown Rats and the Channel 4 show The Tube. So I was able to sing live with Bob Geldof and his band, which was a wonderful experience. And I did quite a lot of live radio. And I also covered for Kirsty MacColl on Top of the Pops once with Billy Bragg. So I've been very lucky. Things have gone very smoothly for me. I've had amazing opportunities. I've turned down a lot of stuff because I've always been very clear about what I want to do with my career. It's all about credibility to me.
So you kind of always had like a really clear vision of what you wanted to do?
Yeah.
Or because it sounded like you were kind of, you were bouncing from this to this, but you had an idea of like, this is where I want to get to. And so what was that vision that you had?
Well, it's not so much where I wanted to get to, but what I didn't want to do. I've always been an R&B person, and obviously I've always been offered, rock projects, which I'm not into. I like Deep Purple and I like some amazing Pink Floyd kind of rock bands, but you're never into kind of indie rock or that kind of thing. It always had to be kind of soul based. Big fan of Diana Ross, R&B, grew up in the Motown era. Anything with syncopation, a bit of funk, because I also used to be a dancer as well. So I've got to love the music, I've got to love the song. And later on it became needed to love the artists I was working with. So but I say amazing opportunities, but if it didn't feel right, my happiness was more important than making money. And I'm still the same now because I think I'm still a fan of music. I've managed to still stay, even though it obviously became a job. Initially I guess it was a hobby that evolved into a job. And when you have to write songs for a living, it can be quite demanding, constantly coming up with fresh ideas. I don't know, I was thinking about Beyonce, how she does it, I will never know. But constantly reinventing herself. But in my day, we weren't aware that you could use other people's songs. We all wrote our own songs. And it was only when I formed Mystique that I realised, goodness, I can search the world for the best songs and the best songwriters. And that took a lot of pressure off me. Because it's really hard writing hit songs.
Yeah, of course.
And in my position, I was just doing a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about you. So we've got a bit of your background and how you kind of navigated the music industry in the 80s, and we got up to the 90s, and you've had bits of success here. And it sounds like you've been like kind of full time in music all the time. Was that the case, or did you have like day jobs and stuff like that, or was it just all pretty much music?
I've always had to juggle up because my family were in Wales, so I couldn't go home to mum and dad when times were hard. So I've always had to juggle up doing temp work in between, getting advances. You've got to manage your money when you carefully. If you get an advance, you've really got to budget that for a year or two to make sure you don't just go and blow it. A bit like a student grant. A lot of students just go out and blow it, not realizing that's got to last them, till the next grant. So you've got to be very, very, I've always been very careful with money. I still am now. But juggling up, which has been quite hard over the years. But, you've got to live, you've got to eat, you've got to pay your rent, etc. Yeah, I think it's much more difficult nowadays for people to get into the music business unless they've got the support behind them. So, yeah, just juggling it all.
Yeah. And of course, very different times, as you said. So let's talk a little bit about Mystique and how that came to be. So what were the components? How did you sort of build that group?
At the time, obviously, groups like TLC, I was really into American R&B girl groups and boy bands like Boys to Men, that kind of formula. I'd been working for a German record producer at the time, bit of a genius, great songwriter. He, asked me to help him put a group together. That wasn't for my production company, that was for theirs. I ended up doing most of the work, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do most of the work, I may as well form my own company. And that's what my lawyer advised me to do, for my own production company. Because in the end, after I did 2 years work on this group, because I wasn't involved in the negotiations of the record deal, it all fell through. So I didn't see any, return for all my work. And I had to take quite a lot of responsibility for that, even though it wasn't my company. So I didn't want to put myself in that position again. So I started, as I say, so when I met the Spice Girls, I'd already started my group Entice. That was kind of built around they were all rappers and beautiful girls. And I just happened to have all these great songs, and I needed an outlet because I didn't want to perform myself anymore. And I thought it's less risky working with a girl group, because if someone drops out, you can replace them. If you're investing in a solo artist and something goes wrong, that's it, it's all over. So with Entice, I didn't really need to change the lineup very much. They were very good friends. So that was very successful. That opened the door for me to Telstar Records. And so then after that kind of fizzled out, I was going to have a 6-month break. And I was working with a young solo artist who was also rather like myself. She was doing featured vocals on dance records. So I took her to a dance class at Dance Works just off Oxford Street one Sunday afternoon. Very miserable, dreary day. I saw Alesha in the dance class, and I thought, what a beautiful girl. So I spoke to she was only 19, and I spoke to the dance teacher, who I happened to know because he was a friend of Entice, and he choreographed one of their videos and been in one of their videos. So I had a word with him. I said, can you introduce me to that young lady? And he said, yeah, sure, in a break. So in between, I was thinking, I really need a break. I need a 6-month break. Do I really want to start another girl group? Because it's a lot of work. I've just spent 2-3 years developing Entice. And most of the time, I did it on my own, investing, just every aspect of it. A lot of people don't want to get involved until you're starting to make money. And it's too late then to bring people on, because they haven't been involved in the history of the relations. And I have had people come in and they've just been a bit heavy-handed and kind of, rocked the boat a bit. But I had a chat with her in the break. I said, would you like to be in a girl group? She said yes. I already had my recording studio that I co-owned with David Brahm. And I thought, she's delightful. And then I watched her in the dance class, and I just kept seeing these eyes. It was her eyes. I thought, she's lovely. I thought, no, I'm going to help. I'm going to work with her. So she used to start coming down, because she didn't live in London. She lived out in the sticks a bit. So she used to come down every week, and we developed her vocals. And then about a year or so later, I met a duo, one of whom was Sabrina. I loved Sabrina, and they were both great, but I thought Sabrina had real star quality like Alesha. So I said, look, you're great, but if you ever split up, let me know, because I'd really like to work with Sabrina. Gave them my cards, and Sabrina lost my card, and she searched everywhere. Luckily, I'd met her at Dance Attic Studios in Fulham. So she called the manager there, I think, who gave them my contact details. And that was a few months later she contacted me, or quite a while later, after her duo had split up. I didn't want to split up the duo. Just wanted to let her know if, anything happens in the future, she can contact me. So then I had Sabrina and Alesha, and very similar age and great. We just had, Sabrina was also a brilliant rapper. As I say, she was in a kind of rapping duo when I met her. But she just had that beautiful voice. And I just had a word. I thought, wouldn't it be great if Alesha did a little bit of MCing? So I said, Alesha, what do you think about, MCing? And next thing I know, she embraced it. And she just became one of the best MCs in the country. And that was a real asset and USP for the group, I think, her MCing. So, and then a little while after that, I did go through a few young artists until we found, the final combination of 4. In case anyone ever dropped out, because I'd seen this before, putting girl groups together when I was working for the German producer. And so we got so we worked with David Brandt. They recorded their first single, Why, which is an R&B. They were an R&B girl group. And I signed the act to, I was in Dave's studio, somebody in the next studio had overheard what we were doing. This is where we were very lucky. And I have to try and remember his name. He was an established artist himself in an act, and he spoke to Steve Long at Inferno Records. Then I got a call. Actually, I don't think I had a mobile phone then. I had to go to the phone box and call. Everything was on a shoestring. And he asked me to come in for a meeting and just offered us a deal there and then. So I called the girls from the phone box. I said, would you like to take this deal? Yeah. It wasn't a huge advance, but it was good. And they had a good marketing budget and really got the group off the ground. And they had a wonderful idea. The garage music was just taking off at the time. So they had a wonderful idea to do a garage remix of the first single, Why. I'd already recorded an R&B video, beautiful video. But the R&B, the garage remix started to take off in the clubs. So, and I think we knew just from vinyl sales, it was going to go to number 8 in the charts. So we were then able to get a bigger, major deal, all of us together. And Telstar offered an album deal. So we decided to go with them. And I'd worked with Billy Grant there, the A&R manager, on Entice, so we had a history. He's a fabulous A&R manager, amazing contacts. Brought people in like Stargate, who are from Trondheim. Such a talented city. I don't know what's in the water there. They're in America now. They've gone on to work with Beyonce and Neo and Rihanna. Had some really good hits. The girls went over to Trondheim to co-write with Stargate. And it just blew up. And their first single, as I say, went to number 8. Second single, number 2. And their album, number 3. So it just blew up after that.
Wow. So that was, what's the kind of timeline of that happening? You mentioned a few years from meeting Alesha to that hit.
1997, I think I met Alesha, and it blew up in 2000.
Wow. And so the first thing that was interesting you said at the beginning was you created a production company, and that was the first thing you were told to do. Yeah. So what does that look like, and what ended up, how did the production company end up being? Was it always just you, and then and you just sort of subcontracted people in? So how did the deal work? Like, were you first, and then how did Mystique fit in with that deal, if you like? How did it look?
At that time, record companies liked production companies. There was a big company called Fifth Avenue who created groups like Eternal. They had so many big stars. They were based in Hammersmith. They had their own studio, their own offices, everything. Record companies is basically doing the job of A&R. You go out, you invest your own money, you create projects, you find the songs. In my case, we made 2 incredible singles so that we could, with Inferno Records, so that we could secure this huge deal with Telstar. So we did all the work for them, even created, the fan base, particularly from the DJs. Different now, obviously, with social media. But yeah, we just created a demand. And obviously the girls were beautiful, great talent. I would never have believed when I watched them making videos, dancing all day. I think, gosh, I had no idea. You just go by your instincts. And obviously no idea Alesha would turn out to be such a huge star.
So you've obviously got the gift for spotting talent, and as you said, she is striking. But obviously you've got to have the talent to back it up in that kind of situation. Well, so if you were, it's all about being credible and having good taste, I think. And having been an artist, coming from that background myself, I can read if people are serious, and definitely Alesha was, and definitely Sabrina. And the problem is, after we started to release the first single, one of the girls dropped out of the group, just as we were negotiating the big deal with Telstar. And I thought, thank goodness I got 3 members, but I had to go and explain to the record company that it would still be successful as a trio. And luckily it was. And it was all kind of based on, the Supremes, the girl groups, Diana Ross and what have you. That's what I loved growing up, and I was kind of recreating them. Was that the vision you had at the beginning, or did it kind of change as it went along?
I must have, because I love Diana Ross. I've just been chatting to someone today who's written some songs on Diana Ross's new album. I still love her now. I still think she looks amazing. Yeah, it's just that group formula. But we've just recently been working with the boy group 98 Degrees, who've reformed as well. They were signed to Motown. And they were my favourite boy group from that Backstreet Boys NSYNC kind of era. Anything with a bit of soul, I really love. But mainly based on, kind of TLC. And obviously a bit of the Spice Girls, because Mystique were a UK group, came out at the kind of same time. So yeah, but for me, it had to be quality talent, phenomenal dancers as well. Mystique were confidence.
So did you have to then? So you've got you're coming at it from an A&R point of view. So you're looking for people who've got that kind of star quality, people who are hungry for it, and people who are willing to put in the work. Yeah. Then you get the songs. So you got the songs from. You were sharing that studio, so you got the songs from there, or did
we kind of already had the songs, so we did start with the songs. We had a body of songs, but it doesn't matter how great the song is, you've got to get the production right. We decided to go with a beautiful song that Dave Brandt wrote with Marion Morgan. Somebody else as well, whose name I've forgotten, I think. But we love that song. The girls love that song. I never force songs on the artists. At the same time, I teach them to write their own songs, because that's where they'll make money in the future. You've got to be very, very giving to do this kind of role, especially working with very young people. You've got to understand, I do create groups, but they're not manufactured. I'm creating them so they can get started and then go on and have a wonderful career, writing their own songs. My contracts are not with them forever. What I'm good at is breaking artists, which is the hardest bit to do. And it requires just total focus and determination, and almost sales, like kind of, you've got to be like a salesperson as well, and not afraid to pick up the phone. So from those 2 songs, and then the 3rd song, I think they over the 4th and 5th single, they started to co-write with Stargate. I think they co-wrote nearly every song after that.
You've got the production company, which was kind of sounded like it was you, and then the girls. You got a couple of songs. They started writing and started developing their own sort of songwriting talent. When you talked about dancing, so did you get a choreographer in to work with them with the dance, or did they do themselves?
I did, yeah. Obviously, Alesha was already interested in dancing because I'd met her at a dance class at Dance Works. But I worked at a wonderful, and I still do, dance studios in Fulham called Dance Attic. I'd originally gone there because Dee Dee, who was in Pan's People, she used to run it. And again, I love Pan's People. They were another great influence for me that nobody knows. Before videos, on Top of the Pops, they used to have dance groups, and the first one was Pan's People. Legs Go came after, yeah. Amazing outfits, beautiful dancing, and Dee Dee was in Pan's People. And they're kind of local to me as well because I live in southwest London. I had a chat with Andrew, the manager there, who's always been so supportive of me and the girls, Mystique and all my other acts. And he put forward, I said, do you know any good choreographers? And he mentioned Paulette Minute. So I contacted Paulette, and she was the choreographer all the way through for the girls, for the videos, for the Mobos, the Brits, huge live shows. Very cool, calm, talented choreographer. So she's amazing. I think she started off as a dancer herself. I think I met her when she was dancing for Peter Andre initially. So, because the girls did a lot of tours with people like Boyzone. Later on, they did Shaggy and, Wembley and what have you, Laura Fun. So, yes, so Paulette was amazing.
So were you like their manager as well at that point? When they got to certain points, were you doing everything, or did you get a manager in afterwards?
It's hard to explain what I did, but it was more like a big sister role. Just absolutely everything. Until we got the record deal, obviously Inferno Records did a lot as well. Pat Travers and Steve Long, and they had a secretary. And they started to hire out kind of marketing teams as well. Club promotions, PR company, TV. Tony Byrne at Single Minded, did the plug and got them on Radio 1 and all the major radio stations. So that aspect was taken care of on a one-to-one level with the girls, running their diary, that kind of thing, making sure psychologically they were okay and they're happy with their outfits and their hair. And we had to bring in stylists and makeup artists and just encouraging them to continue without being too intrusive, just always being there for them. I always felt, well, I've moved here, I've upsticked from Cardiff, left my family behind, moved to London. I thought, I'm not going to do that for nothing. I want to have major success. I realised I didn't want, to do it myself. So I thought, I'm going to try and help somebody else be successful. So that's why I really went for it. For about 8 years, I dedicated my life to that. And it was very successful. And, I've done quite a few projects since then. I started JLS, the boy group, in 2007. Also at Dance Attic, they were individual solo artists. I was working, actually, I had a kind of mini version of JLS at the time, some little young lads. I think they all went on to star as the young Michael Jackson in Thriller later. But I primarily work with, as my career took off, you feel obliged to help people. And this little boy group was so cute. But I was trying to create another girl group. And the boys who later became JLS, 3 of them, heard that I was at Dance Attic, asked if they could come and meet me at reception. They called me upstairs. I said, yeah, send them up, but obviously I focus on girl groups. So they came up and they sang for me. Well, it was Marvin and Arisha and another chap. And they all sang for me. And I said, look, you're great, but my advice would be form a boy group and go on X Factor. Because at that time, 2007, X Factor, was huge. So 2 of the boys, Marvin and Arisha, came back and said, yeah, we like that idea. The other artist wanted to stay as a solo artist, which I can understand. And I said, well, look, if you want to do that, I'll help you, start finding people. But they actually found Aston and Jonathan, who were their friends. So, and in those days, I had so much going on, I couldn't really devote my time and attention to them. And I don't think you were allowed to have a manager outside of X Factor contractually. So I had to step out of it. I helped them get started, and off they went. It's incredible. And in fact, a young rapper I'm working with at the moment, a Welsh rapper, has just seen them in Cardiff. He said they were amazing. So they've reformed, done very, very well.
It's a combination of knowing the right people and having the right temperament yourself. It sounds like you were the kind of person that can very easily sort of create a team and get people to really work together.
Yeah, I mean, initially, obviously, I didn't intend it to be like that, to do it all on my own. I guess because of all my experience, I've got unique skills, which are hard to find, because I have been singing myself since I was a kid, and from a very musical family, etc. Did become very difficult doing it all on my own. I did make some mistakes. Sometimes I was a little bit, irritable because of the amount of stress when you're doing it all on your own. You've got to make sure you've got enough money to cover everything. There's always that worry. And the problem with having a production company is that you take all the risk, you start the project, but you couldn't have a monopoly in those days. It was called a monopoly, which meant that you couldn't have a management contract and a production agreement. The production agreement, you make your money. You are the kind of record label, the smaller record label. You do the artist sign to you, and you sign the artist and your company services to the record label. And in return, they give you an advance, marketing budget, everything to make the records. A huge amount of responsibility, but you just get a small percentage of, depending on your contract, from the record sales, not from merchandising, publishing deals, everything else, where a manager would normally take 20%. That was a pitfall, because I did all the work, took all the risks, but couldn't make any money from anything else other than the record sales. And those days, record sales were good, were healthy, because we sold CDs for $3.99, album was $10.90. Compared to streaming now, I don't know, how people are making money. Well, I think maybe that's why contractually it's allowed to be a little bit more flexible. So yeah, that was frustrating, as you can imagine, because I don't know how many millions that group generated that I wasn't able to be part of. You can't take from both sides, and also you've just got to be sensible. Maybe just have a 2-year management contract and a 5-year production agreement. At the end of the day, contract doesn't mean anything. If relations break down, people can get out of contracts, just rip it up, and the power shifts to the artists, to whoever's generating the money. So it's very, very risky what I do, but I'm very determined to. I attended a webinar last night with some key music industry people, and I'm glad they gave me a little bit of a voice. And I was trying to explain how hard it is to break, even more so now, young, especially in the UK, artists. Particularly, there's a lack of female artists coming through. And it was great to be listened to, and I'm hoping I can kind of build relations with them to do more about this, because streaming, established artists are making a lot of money, but new artists, and the market is saturated. So many people are releasing their own tracks on Spotify, etc. It's so hard to be discovered now. So yeah, been really, really lucky with my career, and now I'm just as I started JLS, they weren't called JLS, they came up with that name themselves. I always wanted to study, and I saw a little window where I could, because from a young age I haven't really had a normal life. I've been touring, and my life's been dedicated to either my own career or other people's careers, and I'd always wanted to study. So that's another reason why I couldn't kind of devote my attention fully to JLS. Also, they required quite a lot of investment. It's because I didn't enroll for a degree, a business degree, and I felt I had all this kind of creative experience, but when you have a group that's as successful as Mystique, and you're dealing with business managers, they can be scary. And I felt a little bit out of my depth, so I thought, I'm going to go and study business. So I did that, And I guess over the, since then, I've just finished my last degree last year. So I've done 3 business degrees. I've got an MBA now. And I feel I'm really, really super skilled across the board. And I'm very confident in dealing with other business managers now, because I understand about accounting, how to run companies, put the board of directors, what their responsibilities are, etc. Just got a huge amount of knowledge now. About 2017, I thought, so I had a complete break from music. I didn't even listen to music for about 10 years. I just had fun. I went on holiday, made friends, saw my family, did what I really wanted to do, which was study. So about 2017, I thought, well, as part of my course, I was asked, we had to create a professional LinkedIn profile. And we were marked for that, how good our profile was. So I thought, well, I want a good mark, so I'm going to put everything on my LinkedIn profile. So I uploaded all the videos I've made and what have you with my previous acts and all my work history. And then I started getting connection requests from people all over the world saying, oh, I've worked with Mystique, what a wonderful group. Can you put another girl group together? And I thought, oh, okay, all right, that's lovely. So I started to do that. I put a 5-piece girl group together, fantastic, but so different. Generation Y, Generation Z, really different to when I put a girl group together kind of last time in the late 1990s, 2000s. So I then decided to do a lot of research into Generation Y and Z people. So as you get older, obviously it's harder to reconnect. And I'm so glad I did that, because I understand a little bit more what younger people are all about. And that's kind of equipped me now to help younger people, young artists coming through. I'm working with a couple of amazing producers, one of which is Jansky, who's just released his amazing electronic pop dance album called Forgiven, which is available on Spotify, and also his single, also called Forgiven, and the dance club remix of that is being played in the clubs at the moment. He's got a lot of really positive feedback from DJs. We've done a club promo with him. I'm working with a young Welsh who happens to be from Cardiff. That's not the reason I'm working with him. It's just that he's a really gifted songwriter and great work ethic and fabulous rapper. So he's just working on his new single, which we're hoping to release early next year. And I've had a little idea of to kind of use influencers on TikTok and Instagram. So we've got various dancers at the moment releasing short clips of both Jansky's track Forgiven and also Deflex's new track called Must Be. And that's really great, because they're loving the track and they're starting to get it out on Instagram and TikTok. It's another way of promoting tracks. So we're having a lot of fun, and I'm working with an incredibly talented EDM remixer called Battery, Brian Lodwick, bit of a genius. He's in Portland, Oregon. During lockdown, it was really, really good, because we could, still work like this on Zoom and just share tracks, and more and more artists. And I would recommend anybody who really wants a career in music to get a home kind of studio setup, a decent mic, because a lot of times we send instrumentals to artists for them to write their song over, and they send us the vocals, and we just send that to the studio where they can just remix and make a single. And we could get dance remixes as well. So if you've got a decent mic, a lot of people use things like GarageBand, but if you can get, anything that sounds better than anybody else is gonna just, edge that for you. So, but I was working with a young female rapper, and she just sang a vocal into her phone. So technology, your phones are getting better and better at recording. it doesn't matter. The main thing is, if you've got any talent, don't be embarrassed. Just get started somewhere. That would be my advice. So yeah, working with a lot of young people at the moment. It's very hard to put a girl group together at the moment because you really need to be in a dance studio together, singing together, dancing together. It's different with solo artists and rappers. But with a girl group, because I did start another girl group earlier than this year, and my goodness, they're amazing, 3 girls. But it was just too difficult to get together. And particularly singing in a dance studio with COVID, or rehearsal studio, it's just too dangerous. Don't want to risk it. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. Hopefully things will start to get better next year.
Well, Louise, it's been a fascinating journey into your life, into your career in the music business. It's really interesting to me, and yeah, it'd be great to talk more about this in the future.
Yeah.
I really respect the way you keep evolving yourself. You keep upskilling, and you train yourself academically, and you've got a lot of real world managerial experience. You kind of always learning new skills and talents and connecting with new people, and that seems like in any industry really, but particularly the music industry, because it changes so quickly and so rapidly. And as you said, even the environment has changed. The fact that people can't get together physically as easily anymore, and it's kind of set precedent where everyone kind of really does things from home through necessity, but also kind of now because the tools are so great that because you can do that. So it's really inspiring to hear where you're at with it. And thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the introduction to Jens. That's been a nice little kind of tenuous link there. And me being in Trondheim today, talking to you about
incredible. What are the chances of that? As I say, it's all happening in Trondheim for sure.
Yeah, well, this is the first time last time I came was actually the first day of the pandemic, Friday the 13th March 2019. I was booked to do the same 3 shows here. I got there and I was told to turn away and go home because everything was shut down. This weekend I've arrived, and so far nothing's been shut down, although somebody I was talking to last night said there was talk in Trondheim of there might be another lockdown coming. So we're not out of it yet. We're not completely out of the woods yet. So we have to be careful. But it's been amazing talking to you.
Yeah, amazing talking to you as well.
So where can we find out more about you?
I kind of keep a low profile, but I'm on LinkedIn, Louise Porter, or Instagram, Big Out Limited. Anyone can contact me there. My contact details are out there. I'd love to hear from anybody who, any upcoming producers who would like to work with. I'm working with a wonderful artist at the moment, Aileen Gasparini, beautiful voice, and another singer, Lydia Hansen. So if anybody's interested would like to write some songs or interested in producing young artists, they're welcome to contact me. And anybody that feels, they really got the talent and would like a little bit of help and advice, mentoring, I'm up for helping wherever I can, sharing my experience. It's nice that you say that I continue to upskill. Yeah, I feel I need to do that because I feel I've got to inspire the artists and always try and keep one step ahead of them. And I find that it helps that I can write songs, I can sing, I can do a bit of everything. So the message is if I can do it, they can do it too.
And that's probably a great point to wrap it up. A great sentiment to end it on.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.